good news, guys. The government's making some headways on downward pressure on rents. We should all be very thankful that they are doing some things that are going to put downward pressure. I know the pessimists out there will be saying, well, this is just for the landlords, but no, team. The government is telling us this is all about downward pressure on rents with the massive amount of change. You're smiling, Chewy. You think I'm being sarcastic? I'm being absolutely genuine with this.
I'm just waiting to be proven wrong.
Yeah, this is good news, New Zealand, that finally this government, in fact, I think I'm going to ruin it. I think Chloe says something like, this is policies written by landlords for landlords or something like that. It's fucking brilliant, eh? All right, let's have a look.
Renters can now have their leases ended for no reason. Yeah. The government's
No, that's good, isn't it? Should we just start off with there? Renters can have their leases ended for no reason. Oh, that's great. Wow. See, because then if you get kicked out of the home, the downward pressure is you've got nowhere to live, Chewy, so you've got no rent to pay. So, you're paying less.
So you definitely don't want to rock the boat and annoy your landlord at all with those pesky maintenance requests. And,
well, I watched this clip already tonight with my partner, and we were kind of talking it out. We were kind of going, but so what happens if you're the best tenants in the world? You'll never get going. And I was like, well, no, because you think if you wanted to sell your house and you just signed up a lease, so they were good tenants, but you wanted to sell it empty, 3 months notice. If you had a family member moving to town, they're good tenants, but you want to rent your house 3 months notice. So it doesn't just catch up. Well, this won't just catch up the bad tenants. It gives every single tenant, less security in the home they live in. So thanks, National. We'll keep going.
Introducing 90-day no-cause terminations for periodic tenancies and bringing back landlords' ability to give notice at the end of fixed-term tenancies. The changes are to make it easier for so-called mum and dad landlords to get back into the market. Housing Minister Chris Bishop says the government's using every tool it has to solve the housing crisis, and this will help by increasing the number of rental homes available and apply, quote, downward pressure to rents.
Thanks, National. This has nothing to do with the landlords. This is all about the renters. I like it how they're so straight up with society.
How? How does this? Because you move your tenants on, then the new tenants that you bring in, you can just put the rent up. Yeah. It's going to increase rental pressure.
But there'll be more mum and dad investors. So there'll be more houses to remove those people from to up their rent as well.
Unbelievable.
Today's announcement comes as Trade Me data show there's been a 6.7% increase in rents over the past year. The average.
Where's the downward? That's weird. It went up. That's weird. I thought it would start going down but it's gone up. Oh, it's very strange. Maybe Trade Me's numbers are wrong. Maybe they read something inversed or something. I'm assuming.
Average weekly rent is now $640 nationwide. That increase in median rent adds up to more than $40 a week or more than $2,000 a year. The Reserve Bank has stated one of the big inflationary pressures has been continually rising rental prices. Business correspondent Katie Bradford talked to renters to gauge their reaction.
Toddler Oakley's toys have been moved between friends and family for months as his mum struggles to find them a home.
It has been pretty difficult to try have a safe space that we're just situated in and not constantly up our feet and moving every 2 minutes.
They loved their last rental. But
I was just thinking though, Joey, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Mr. Luxon promise us last night an 82% home ownership rate or level? Because we're going to be like Estonia. So doesn't...
Oh, not that stat. Not that stat. No, not all of them. Just the ones that he likes.
Okay. Just checking.
But saying it was rodent infested and unsafe. She's been rejected from multiple properties since and thinks it's because she's a solo mum.
I think I'm mature myself.
In South Canterbury, this mum of 6 says her family are also perfect tenants.
We're not asking for a lot, just a 4-bedroom with a separate toilet.
But there are simply not enough suitable homes available.
Looked this morning and there's 3 that fit and needs. They range from $480 a week to $730 a week. We're faced with a house that doesn't suit us or very high rent.
One of the government solutions is to reduce notice periods for landlords to evict tenants, making it more attractive to what the Housing Minister calls mum and dad landlords.
A mum and dad landlord is someone who's, literally a mum and dad with a property down the road. And there are hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders who have that. They have a house that they live in.
Just think about this logically from this bruised thumb looking guy. He says there's literally hundreds and thousands of mum and dad landlords that live in a house and just have one down the road. Now, I don't know of anybody who's got a house and then has another one just down the road in the same neighborhood. I know people who have rental properties, but not what he's describing. And it sounds like what he's getting at, Chewy, this is how I read it, and I could be wrong because maybe he's not being clear, is that there's these hundreds and thousands, the way he speaks about them, it's almost like he's saying who currently aren't in the market. Just listen to it again. Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying that they are in the market, which I'm happy to accept it if I'm wrong, or is he saying that there are hundreds and thousands that are already in the market who are going to benefit from this? Just you tell me what you think. I'll play it again.
Dad landlord is someone who's, literally a mum and dad with a property down the road. And there are hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders who have that. They have a house that they live in and they have a rental down the road that provides accommodation for people.
It's a government for landlords, by landlords, and they've made their priorities abundantly clear.
But Chris Bishop says...
What do you think? Am I missing it slightly? Do you reckon he's saying that are already in the market, or do you think he's trying to sell that a bunch more of these people will come into the market because of their changes? That will be the only way they could sell the idea of downward pressure. New landlords is the only way they could sell it.
I can't see any fucking logic in this at all. Like, just none. Like, there is not... Like, the words that he's saying don't match the actions that they're doing. Like... Even if it was to encourage more mum and dad landlords into, and I hate that fucking term, mum and dad landlords.
Yeah.
People that own one rental property. Even if that is to encourage them in, it lessens any protection for the people that are renting their investment.
Yeah.
It means that they don't have to do the steps to treat their tenants correctly. It means more people can run roughshod over renters, and that power dynamic is absolutely fucked again. Like, are they running a business or are they not? Like, because they always want to take this both ways. That landlords are just being these altruistic people that are providing places for people to live. Isn't that good? No. Yeah. No, they're letting someone live in their investment and they're letting someone pay their investment.
Yeah, pay their mortgage. In
can't
theory,
have any risk.
In theory, if you were short 1,000 houses in a town and then 2,000 more rentals came on the market, it could apply downward pressure. But I guess where I'm calling bullshit is what they're saying is going to happen, i.e. a whole bunch more people are now going to get involved in rentals, won't happen. And I think the reality is you are going to have to be significantly above demand before downward pressure kicked in. So let's say there's 10,000 people who need a house now. First of all, you got to get to that 10,000, and then maybe another several thousand on top before there gets to this hypothetical idea that all of a sudden renters have choice. And that means you can pick and choose. And that means if you can pick and choose and you have the power, that's not logically untrue, but it's so far away and so unattainable. The way these guys sell it like it's coming, guys, is the bullshit I'm calling. It's just because it's not going to happen.
I just had to Google some facts, right? Because it's very easy to say, most landlords are mum and dad landlords. And in some ways, if you bend the stats, that's what you get. 94,000 single property landlords.
Okay.
26,000 multi-property landlords.
So hang on. So if there's 94,000, then there's not hundreds and thousands like he said. There are hundreds and thousands, meaning 100,000 and more, and multiple hundreds of thousands of mum and dad, and he specifically said who live in a house and rent one down the road. So you're saying the stats say there's 94,000. So that's automatically wrong.
There's 528,000 rental properties.
Yep.
So if you remove the 94,000 owned by single landlords, the remainder implies that 434,000 rental properties, which is about 80% of them, are owned and controlled by 26,000 people.
Wow. Do that again. Is it 464? What was
So
the
if you
number?
remove the 94,000
Got that.
rental properties owned by single landlords, the
Yep.
remainder implies that 434,000 rental properties, which is
Yep.
about 80%,
Yep.
affecting 1.2 million New Zealanders, are
Wow.
owned and controlled by just 26,000 people.
So that averages 16.69 houses per landlord. So obviously there are some places that own hundreds of properties, but that means if that's the numbers correct, 26,000 into 430-ish thousand is 16. That's 16 properties on average for that 80% each. 16. That's almost unbelievable. I almost want to check your numbers, Shui. I know you're reading it. Maybe you can put it in the chat because that feels insurmountably high. That 26,000 people on average would own 16 houses. But that's what the number says. You know, this government, they love data. All right, let's keep going with...
No, they don't love data. They love vibes, and the vibes are the
sorry.
landlords. We don't like following rules. So can you do less rules so the poor's living in my retirement fund can be chucked out if I change my mind?
Well, it's not just the poors. It's the 16 poors. Each of them living in one of my 16 houses are paying for it. That's what it is.
And just getting back to the young woman and her kid that was the anchor of that story, child that age, every time you move, they don't have any sense of security. They can't make friends. You know, when they're older, their school district changes and all of this sort of stuff. It's an incredibly chaotic life for a kid. There are downstream effects from that.
Yeah. 100%.
But, you know, as long as someone's investment portfolio is fat, and I'm not just talking about mum and dad, but I'm talking about the guys making these rules that have a lot of property in their investments.
Look, but the other thing is maybe we're just being a bit dramatic. Maybe the Bish is going to figure this all out for us and it'll all come out in the wash. We'll just keep checking him out.
It's a government for landlords, by landlords, and they've made their priorities abundantly clear.
But Chris Bishop says landlords will give more people a chance.
People leaving prison, for example, people with criminal records.
It is knowing that you can take a punt on a tenant, and if something really terrible goes wrong, then you can terminate the tenancy in as straightforward a way as possible.
People are struggling to afford ever-rising rents, let alone save.
We want to get out of that circle and become our own landlords, really.
No, I don't have any modelling on what these changes will do to rent prices, because it's self-evident that if you encourage more landlords into the rental market, which is what we believe this policy will do, it will put downward pressure on rent.
See, where he's just unfathomably wrong is he's saying when you encourage more landlords into the market, that doesn't mean you will get more landlords in the market. He said it himself. When you I encourage my children to tidy their fucking rooms. It doesn't mean they do it. And in theory, if all of a sudden the 10,000-ish people looking for rental properties and there was 15,000 new properties on the market, yeah, that would help. But we are inviting them in. We are encouraging them in. He can't then draw the conclusion that they will come in, which is what he's doing, obviously, because he's going, well, this is our plan and this is what's going to work perfectly. This has got about 30 seconds. We'll just play the end of it.
But I haven't got any specific modelling on.
This is just one move the government's making to fix the housing crisis.
What is really going to be the game changer is boosting supply from building more houses.
This family can't wait that long.
It doesn't matter the size, we're not too picky on that, we just want a safe home.
A simple goal that's proving difficult to attain.
There you go. So there's your first story. This government is apparently on the side of the renter by giving tax breaks to landlords and making it easier for landlords to kick them out of their home. Thanks, National. Fighting for the worker.
Absolutely nonsensical policy, the way that they're framing it. I would, anybody that takes this at face value and believes them is a raving idiot. Like, oh Jesus Christ, just Just build more houses. I don't care if it becomes really, really hard to be a landlord. If people exit the housing market, that puts downward pressure on people buying houses. And that is better for the country overall because it means that their retirement is going to be more secure. That's the thing. This is the thing that I've always been saying. We need to fix our property market. We need to build more houses. We need to encourage people to invest their money elsewhere. We need to make it easier for people to get houses that they own, that they can put their own equity in. It gives just a lifetime of security. It's just mental.
Can we let's take a half step back? Okay, let's take a half step back because I'm criticising National for them saying they are projecting forward what's going to happen from the policies they're putting in place. And I'm calling bullshit on that. I'm saying what they're saying is going to happen will not happen. But let's just take half a step back and go, how do we fix this? People in the chat, how do we fix this? Until demand is less than supply or supply outweighs demand, you're going to have this continuing cycle of rental increases because that's what drives the market. I mean, there are lots of, mum and dad investors out there, mum and dad landlords who do actually charge a very fair rate. I know several landlords and they charge the same this year and then they don't put it up the next year to keep the tenants and then they don't put it up the next year to keep the tenants where they could have. There are good people out there doing it. But if that's that's a percentage of that 20%, Joey. So let's say that's 5% of the landlords. How do we actually solve this? How do we actually make it possible for that young mum and her child to be able to afford a house? How do you find that shockingly young mother of 6? How do you actually find it that she can find a 4-bedroom home with a separate toilet and not have to spend $700 a week because that's not what she's able to afford? How do you do it? Like, what's the answer? Because you just said build more houses. Cool, I agree, we could do that. That's not going to happen this term. Like, you know what I'm saying? No. Like, if we could, like, even if we got going with building, just the time delay of getting that many done is not going to solve the problem. What do we do? What's the answers?
Yeah, it's a range of answers, and none of them are quick and easy because everybody has their own vested interest in this, and all of our lawmakers, both sides of the aisle, pretty much all parties, they all have vested interests in this. Their own investments are fat with property because it's a sensible investment, the way that we have structured it.
Yeah. So
none of them are really personally have any real drive to change it. It's this multi-phase thing. Like, we need to stop being so precious about apartments. Smaller land footprint. We need to look at a land tax. We need to look at a capital gains tax. We maybe need to look at rent controls, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I love when I see what you've put up on the screen there. Maybe we should ask Estonia. There is an answer there. And lots of people, when they look at those ex-Soviet states, they look at all of these ugly slab apartment buildings that the Soviets put up, right? And yes, they're ugly and they're hideous and that sort of thing. But people had houses.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of homelessness in those Soviet states, and because the climate's so harsh. But this is the thing. We have huge swathes of our major centres where people get real precious about a second story going on a house or more infill housing. There is ways to do these sort of things. It doesn't need to look like bloody Pripyat or that sort of thing. We can, I don't know if this is the answer, but I look at post-earthquake Christchurch, and you see one house being demolished and 6 units going up in the same footprint.
Yep.
Now, you don't have the big sections, that sort of thing, but you're close to the city centre. It might be a good starter property. It might be somewhere that someone starts a family before moving out to the suburbs or something like that. But at the end result, we need to go, well, I love these leafy green suburbs with these Edwardian villas everywhere, but also we have people sleeping in doorways, and that's not a good look. So, we need to sort of go, yes, heritage. We like heritage. We like nice suburbs. but we also have to put a value on people sleeping in cars and under bridges and fucking shit like that. You know, Labor did not solve this. They didn't solve it in 2 terms. They built a shitload of houses, or you know, Kiwi Build didn't do what they hoped it would, but there were a lot more houses built while Labor was in power than like literally decades beforehand. And it's that needs to keep going. The current government thinks the best way that they can do that is by loosening regulations around building houses. And who knows? Maybe they're right. I have serious doubts about it, because I have serious doubts about a lot of things that they put forward. I think we're looking at Leaky Homes 2.0. But, you know, who knows? Could be wrong. I would be happy to be wrong on this. Maybe there's some lovely housing developments that will go up, and maybe it's not just a way to farm the poor for someone's investment portfolio. Maybe.
Yeah, Tina also says here, thank you for the super chat, high density can be pricey too, says Tina, with a
go to chat. A range of European cities, and look at how apartment living can be. You know, you can go to parts of Paris and they're all 6-story apartment buildings and stuff like that, and it's still a very pretty city. But we have held on to, like, Auckland is a terrible example of just holding on to the quarter-acre paradise and just spread, and don't do public transport and don't plan this at all. We just expand. We need to go up, and we need to do it in a way that's sensible. It doesn't create slums and isn't ugly. And all of these things can be done. We're not talking about doing Grenfell Towers, but at the same time, we need places for people to live.
Yeah, I wonder as well as if the like our generation and older can start to help this solution by looking at apartments. I think I'd be really perfectly happy to sort of retire to an apartment somewhere, you know, lock up and leave, not have to worry about the lawns and that kind of stuff. And then the house that we were living in can be bought by the next generation, sort of thing. I know boomers out there are going to go, oh, we've been giving up for such a long time for our kids. But I'm just like, I wonder if societal change about not just the quarter-acre block, but even bigger, needs to be put in the hands of the 30-somethings now, as opposed to held in the hands of the 60-somethings at the moment. So I wonder if there's a way of doing that. Don't know.
But it's a rat's nest. There's so many things that spiral out from that, right? You know, are they going to have transport links for them? Are there going to be schools enough to deal with the people that are living there? All of these things. It involves planning, and it involves, if you're going to plan to that degree, then both sides of the political aisle need to be somewhat on the same page. And I don't think either of these guys are really talking to each other as far as solving a generational problem that both of them have created.
Yeah, it's probably hard as well for a bipartisan approach to this, because, as you say, it seems that the left is looking at building and making available rules for tenants, whereas the right is looking at getting rid of regulation and helping out landlords. And so they literally feel like they're doing it. How do you find middle ground for those two positions for someone to fix this thing? I have no idea. And what it probably also means is that Labor comes in, or Labor Greens or left comes in, and they go, well, here's our way of doing it, we'll do it like this. And then National gets in and cancels all that and then just does the opposite. So not only is it not being fixed by one or the other, or not being fixed together, it's worse because one of the plans just gets shelved when the other group get in and they put their plan in. Then that gets shelved and their plan in. So actually no one's making any progress anywhere, because even if you disagree with the plan, if a plan gets left to run its full term, maybe it would make a difference. But that's not even happening because the other guys just get rid of it. So it's like it doesn't even actually matter what National or Labor say, what the left or the right say, because as soon as the other guys are in, what the left or the right have said, the other guys get rid of anyway. So literally nothing's happening.
Yeah, and this is the thing, that when we ping pong between these two major parties, that's what we get.